Hello and welcome back to Conquest Creations. Games Workshop has just dropped what is undoubtedly the most controversial article about the Middle-earth strategy battle game ever. A lot of people are saying that Games Workshop has just nuked the Middle-earth strategy battle game. Is that true? Well, definitely not. It's not that dramatic. They've just announced what's going to be moving into legacies. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, when the new edition comes out, a certain number of profiles are going to be moved into what is called legacies. In legacies, the model's rules will not be in the main rulebooks. Instead, they'll be in a free PDF. And these models are being sunsetted, so they won't be sold anymore. And I think the intention is that they're kind of being removed from the game. Games Workshop has said that legacy models won't be allowed at Games Workshop tournaments, but it's up to the community whether or not we want them at our tournaments. My initial guess is that at competitive tournaments, there won't be legacy models, but at friendly, more casual thematic tournaments, legacies will definitely be allowed. Let's have a look at what they've said in this article is going to change, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. If you don't want to hear my thoughts, fair enough. The link to this article is in the description down below, so you can read it for yourself. This article is titled Middle-earth Strategy Battle Game, the upcoming range update explained. So it just starts with a little introduction saying that the new edition is coming out with the War of the Rohirrim. Really hoping that's late November. The movie comes out 13th of December, so I'm guessing it'll be a little bit before then. And they go on to say that the game is the new edition will be bursting with new miniatures, and the game has been reset with fully updated rules and plenty more to come. Now, as with any edition, the full range of miniatures and factions needs to be re-examined. This means that some older miniatures are leaving the Middle-earth strategy battle game range, but all of them for good reason. Now, it's probably not what I would do if I was in charge, but I do understand the need to cut down on bloat. Bloat is what happens when miniature games just continue releasing more new stuff, just again and again and again. And it really ends up diluting the game, and there's so many new profiles, it's hard to keep track of everything, and you end up with some of the most iconic characters not really seeing the game that much because there's so many other random characters as well. A great example of this in another game is from Star Wars X-Wing, which was a X-Wing miniature, which was a Starfighter miniature game. And it was called X-Wing, and you would think that the iconic X-Wing would be the most used thing. But because they kept releasing more new and new stuff, they got into niche and niche ships, and you ended up not really seeing the most popular spaceships that often. That's just an example of what they're trying to fix here, to make sure that the game is still based around the characters that we see the most in the movies and the books. So they go on to say, here's the design studio with more. This refresh concerns profiles rather than products. Okay, for example, we're removing the Knight of the White Tower profile, so there's a sneak peek of what's coming up from the game, as no such unit ever appeared in the books or movies, and Minas Tirith already has a lot of profiles available. Fair enough. But rather than removing it from the entire set it was sold in, which was the Minas Tirith Commander's box, they've just reformatted that, and it won't have the Knight of the White Tower in it. Now, a little while ago, I went on to say, on the record, to say that I thought that all of the stuff in the command boxes would be safe, and they've just blown me out of the water here. I was totally wrong about that. They're just going to be remaking those command boxes. Now, they've also said, we've reviewed our factions and tried to boil them down to errors from the movies and books, which we want to focus on. Therefore, a few characters, such as Banderbus Took and Golfenbull, who come from the books, have moved to legacies. Now, this isn't surprising at all for Banderbus Took and Golfenbull, but in general, it makes sense. They're just trying to clean things up. So down below, it says, most of these miniatures will be going off sale. Yep, you can buy them now if you want. Some of them will be rolled into different profiles. Cool. Now, this is a huge one that I'm really happy about. It says, additionally, some characters once had access to shields, horses, and so on, but we never sold a model with those options, which have now been removed from the game. I'm actually a massive fan of this. So the big thing this means is that Elendil and Gil-galad will no longer have the option for a horse. And I'm presuming there's quite a few other characters like that as well. I'm a really big fan of this because in the movies, we don't actually see the heroes fighting on horses that often, whereas in-game, horses are just so powerful that you're kind of nerfing yourself if you don't take one. So I hope that, firstly, they'll nerf the power of heroes on horses, and just removing some of the options for horses as well, I think is a great idea. Okay, let's get into the list of models that are going to be disappearing. So the Fallen Realms, the Fallen Realms, kind of a throwback to some older rulebooks, but it's basically all of the evil men factions. So while I'm going through this list, can you guys please leave a comment down below with your thoughts on this list? Is it what you're expecting? Are there more stuff in it than you're expecting? Is there anything that survived that has kind of surprised you? What are you most sad about moving the legacies? Let me know down below. And we've got some miniatures removed from sale. So Gothenburg is gone, and then all of Marhood is gone. We've got the Marhood King, Travis Master, Warrior, Raider, and Half Trolls. It's all going into legacies. That isn't surprising. That is, I think, what a lot of people were expecting. It is a little bit sad, but look, I get it. They're very niche. They're mostly a Games Workshop invention. In the books, we only ever hear of Half Trolls from Farharad, so maybe there was a chance they could have stayed, but the faction's going to legacies. It's not that surprising. Next, we have another one that really does hurt. From the Haradrim list, we're losing Haradrim King. That's fine. The Golden King, Merchant Guard, and Watchers of Karna. One of the things that I liked the most about Haradrim was the amount of variety you could fit into each warband with just having so many options. And the Abrakan Merchant Guard are these big fat dudes with massive swords. So it's really sad to see them going. Same with the Watchers of Karna. That one's definitely unfortunate. Next up, we have Corsair Reavers going. That is not a surprise at all. The Corsair Reavers have had profiles in the game for a long time now, but they've never had a miniature. Given that they don't have a miniature, it's not a surprise to see them go. And then we also have the full Khan faction gone as well. Again, that's sad, but the Marhood and Khan faction are both very niche, not very widely played, and fully metal. So as Games Workshop slowly moves away from metal miniatures, which is sad because I love metal miniatures, it makes sense that these factions are unfortunately going into legacies. But ultimately, nothing surprising there. Okay, moving into the next section, which is Mordor. Now, this is the one that really surprised me. So, miniatures removed from sale and entering legacies. We have all of the named ring rates, aside from the Witch King. We can see him down below. So that means Kamul, the Undying, the Betrayer, the Dark Marshal, they're all going into legacies. I definitely understand this one because they were very much a Games Workshop invention. And I think a lot of this legacy move is kind of removing those Games Workshop inventions or pushing them into legacies. So it's, yeah, again, that one's not that surprising. It is a little bit sad because some of them were really, really cool, but it also means that there's, 8 Magic Caster profiles removed from the game. So that's 8 less models with Transfix running around, which is fair enough. This video is brought to you by the Kingdom of Noldoreth Kickstarter campaign. Here at Conquest Creations, we create STL files of wargaming scenery, and the newest line that we're creating is the Kingdom of Noldoreth, an Elven-inspired kingdom. All of our terrain has been designed by wargamers for wargamers, which means that we've planned out how this is going to impact the battlefield. All of our doorways are big enough to fit miniatures bases through, and we are having a ton of fun putting this stuff together. If you enjoy this channel and you want to see us continue to make videos, then click the link down in the description below, which is going to take you to the pre-launch page. The Kickstarter is going to be going live in mid-November, and by backing it, you're not only getting yourself a bunch of amazing wargaming scenery, you're also helping support the channel. Next up, we have 2 that are a big surprise. That's Goroth and Zagdush. These guys are 2 orc captains that came out with the War in Gondor supplement. So they're actually relatively new, only a few years old. I love Zagdush so much. I've gone on the record a few times to say he's one of my favorite profiles in the game. So to see him on this list definitely is sad. I kind of get it because they were a little bit of a random invention, but I thought that any of the new models were completely safe from going into legacies. I was wrong about that. Sad, very sad to see Zagdush go into legacies. Next up, we've got the Blackguard of Barad-dûr. Interestingly, it just says Blackguard of Barad-dûr. I assume that refers to the drummer, commander, and warriors. And yeah, they're pretty niche, so that makes sense. Morgul Stalkers are probably top of the list of things that I was expecting to be just removed. They weren't really mentioned in the game, weren't really mentioned in the lore, not really played in the game very much, and they haven't had a model for ages. Next we have Kardush the Firecaller, again, another Games Workshop invention, so makes sense to see him go. Orc Trackers, also fair enough to see them go. And then the Great Beast of Gorgoroth, that is a really sad one. This is really funny, this list, because I am preparing for a big tournament and I'm taking Gothmog, obviously he's staying, Taskmaster, he's staying, but then I've got Zagdush, Kardush, and the Great Beast, so 3 of the profiles in my army are unfortunately going into legacies. So it's a great opportunity to give them one last run. Next, another two surprising one, Razgush, War Leader of the North, and Mozgar, Orc Shaman, also going into Legacies. These guys are pretty new. They came out with Defense of the North, which was the second most recent supplement. I presume they must not have been that popular, or maybe it's some weird licensing thing to get rid of them. But the great thing about it is that this means that Assault on Lothlorien is going to be gone. That was a legendary legion that came out in Defense of the North that wasn't really thematic and was wildly, wildly powerful. And it was led by Merzger. So to see him being removed means that that legendary legion should also be removed. Next, we have Morgul Knights being renamed to Black Numenorian Knights. That makes sense. And interestingly, Black Numenorians are not going into Legacy. They're one that I was definitely expecting to. Witch King of Angmar will be sold separately, and Shagrat War Leader, the miniature, will be removed from the game. Shagrat's profile will still be in the game, but just the specific War Leader model. All right, next up, into the Hobbit era, we have Gundabad and Dol Guldur. We've lost the Castellans of Dol Guldur. That's fair enough. They could have been removed between now and the last edition. Because of the Hobbit films, they were kind of ruled out or made obsolete. And then the Spider Queen. That one's actually pretty surprising to me because, yeah, the spiders, like that Spider Queen is the core of the Dark Denizens of Mirkwood. So obviously that's going to get a reshift around. And she's a pretty old metal model, and I couldn't imagine them making a new miniature for her. In Mirkwood, they removed Thranduil on horse. We never see Thranduil riding a horse in the films. So, yeah, you can only take him on foot or on elk. And I actually kind of like that because the elk is way cooler than the horse, but a lot of people just took the horse because it was cheaper and they kind of thought it was better. So this kind of pushes people into playing with the cooler miniature, which I like. Now, in the Isengard faction, we have just moved all of the Dunlending stuff, which is pretty new, into Legacies. Not a huge surprise. This is a surprise. I thought that any of the new stuff was going to be safe. Obviously, that wasn't quite correct because all of this stuff's going into Legacies. It makes sense as they're making new Dunland for the War of the Rohirrim movie. So I think that's the approach that they're going for. They're removing all this stuff to make space for the new Dunland. Next is one that I've seen people talk about quite a lot, which is Malher. That's kind of surprising to see him being removed because he's definitely in the books. Currently in the game, he's in Lurtz's Scouts and Ugluk Scouts as Legendary Legions. And that doesn't really line up with the lore that we see because Malher, he never interacts with Lurtz's Scouts because he's kind of late to the party. And while Ugluk Scouts is being slain by Éomer and his riders, Malher turns up and helps fight against them, but he never fights with them. Still kind of surprised to see him on this list. I did just convert my own Malher, so he might just have to be a Uruk-hai Scout Captain. That's it. Sorry, that was a lot harder to say than it should have been. Vrashku's going, thank God. Vrashku's just like this Uruk-hai with the 2-shot crossbow that was so popular because shooting's so powerful. So I'm glad to see him going. And Feral Uruk-hai, also fair enough. Never really saw them get played. Profiles removed. Greenwood Wormtongue's lost his ability to take a horse, which is fair enough because there's that plastic box that has him on foot. And then the Oathmaker, who's really cool. He's the only one surviving from this, and he's being renamed and sold separately. All right, moving into Gondor. In Gondor, starting off, we've lost the Knight of the White Tower. That kind of makes sense. I played with the Knight of the White Tower and Kyrian, who's also on that list. So quite a few of the stuff that I play with is getting moved into Legacies, but I did like playing with the niche, less popular stuff. So that kind of makes sense. We're also losing Anborn and Mablung, Anborn and Mablung, who are the two new Ranger characters. Again, new models moving into Legacies, kind of surprising. The Men-at-Arms of Dol Amroth are gone, but thankfully the rest of the fiefdoms is still there. So we still have the Knights of Dol Amroth, the Axemen and Clansmen, Anborn the Fearless, Following the Fat. All of them are staying, which is really good because I was worried that they were on the chopping block, and the fiefdoms is such a cool faction. So really good that that made it through pretty unscathed. And then Minister of the Commanders the box will be changed, and Baragon will be sold separately. Baragon is a model that I hope his rules get quite a significant change because it's a pretty big deal in the books, and his rules don't really reflect that. All right, next we have the Misty Mountains. We had to go, are we going in, no, I don't know. I'm not sure how they chose the order to put these in, because we've gone good, evil, good, back to evil. But anyway, Misty Mountains. Interesting that it says Misty Mountains, not Moria. Obviously, there's probably a little bit of a change there for the new edition. We've lost Groblog, Ashrak, Dweller in the Dark, all of the Black Shields, and the Warg Marauders. I was worried we'd be losing Durbers as well, but we didn't, so that's good. Look, Groblog and Ashrak very much Games Workshop inventions. Again, Ashrak was in Assault on Lothlorien, so Assault on Lothlorien has been absolutely gutted. Losing the Black Shields isn't a huge surprise. I do like them, but the good thing is you could just use those models as regular goblins. The Black Shield Shaman being removed is fantastic because that's a really oppressive unit. It's not a ton of fun. Obviously, everything's subject to change, but he's really oppressive this edition, and he's just gone for now, which is good. I, again, play with Groblog quite often, so sad to see him go, but hey, that's how it is. In the Elven Kingdoms, this one actually is really interesting. So Eladon, Elrohir, and Glorfindel are on this list, but it's only their unarmored version. So all of them have models with armor on and without armor on, and you can only take the armored versions now, which I don't mind at all because basically I don't think anyone ever played them without the armor upgrade. So it just means that it cleans up the range a little bit. The armored models are a lot nicer, and that, I don't know, that makes sense. Gildor and Glorian going off is pretty surprising. He's a pretty significant character in the Fellowship of the Ring. We never see him fighting, so maybe that's why. The Stormcaller is no surprise at all. And then Eristor. Eristor's a little bit of surprise. He does have one line, I think it is, in the Council of Elrond chapter in the Fellowship of the Ring. I, again, play with him quite often, but I can understand he's not super popular. He was just released in a pack with Círdan, so very strange just to release a new pack with him and then move him into Legacies, but hey, that's what happened. And then they've also removed Elrond's unarmored option. Now, the important thing is if you have this Elrond unarmored model and you really want to use it, just go for it. Just say he has armor that's under his cloaks or something. Like, that'll be totally fine. Next, we have Rohan. Grimbold, Helmingus going away. Again, kind of surprising because Theoden very explicitly says Grimbold in the movie. Ael the Young, no surprise at all. He makes complete sense to go into Legacies with his Sons of Ael. Outriders also make sense to go into Legacies. No surprise to see the King's Huntsman gone. And Erkenbrand is actually kind of surprising because he's a pretty major player in the book. This edition, just because the way the rules worked out, he wasn't really played much because he didn't fit into any of the Legendary Legions. So I am surprised to see him go. But ultimately, he was very rarely played this edition anyway. And then they're repackaging the Rohan Commanders. This next one is Dwarven Hold. We're losing Mirren and Dra. That's kind of like the least surprising stuff to lose. Balin going away is a really massive surprise to me. He's very significant in the book. You know, they go to Moria and he's dead. They were hoping to find him. So I'm really surprised that he is moving into Legacy. The Khazad-dûm army list in this edition definitely needed a bit of a shift around. But just him going to Legacies kind of makes me think that maybe there's a Khazad-dûm supplement planned. I'm not sure how likely that is, but yeah, I feel like Balin's going to end up being playable in some way down the track. We're losing Floyd, who goes with Balin, and the King's Champion going out is a big one. He was one of the best models in the game. He's just having to carry a whole faction that's not super strong. So I'm not surprised, but I'm sad. Losing the Shield Bearer as well. So ultimately, Dwarven Hold is now moving to basically what Khazad-dûm is instead of Moria. So it's going to be led by Durin. Very surprising to see Martin surviving. He's some random GW invention, but hey, he's made it through, so good on him. And he'll have the Khazad Guard, the Dwarven Warriors, Dwarven Rangers, all that stuff. Good thing the one that I was maybe expecting to lose was the Alien Guard, but they've stayed around, which is fantastic. Next we have Kingdoms of Men. They've said that the Range of the North and Dunedain will be repackaged, and then in the Free People, Bannerbrust Took is in Legacies. And this is a weird one. Quickbeam has been reassigned as Birchseed. Quickbeam is, maybe there was just some weird thing where the model they made of Quickbeam wasn't technically Quickbeam in like the behind the scenes footage or something like that. Because Quickbeam, again, has, you know, he plays a role in the books. There's a few things in here that I was 100% expecting to go to Legacies that survived. The main one is Wozus. Wozus, like they do stuff in the books, but their models are super old. They haven't been available for ages. They're basically never played. Somehow they have made it through the Legacy cut, which is crazy because they would have been one of the things on the top of my list of going to Legacies. I already spoke about Black Numenorians. I was expecting them to maybe get cut, but they've survived this. So overall, some stuff's moving to Legacies. not that much, and a lot of things that I don't think will make a huge difference to how we play the game. Obviously, there's a lot of people who are upset on the internet, and a lot of people trying to stir up controversy, but that's fine. I'm really excited for the new edition. They told us this was going to happen. They've now revealed what it is. If I was in charge, I probably wouldn't have done this, but they have, and that's okay. I'm fully on board with the new edition, and I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, well, we'll just play these models anyway because they're legacies. And like, yeah, that's the point. That's fantastic. They're releasing the legacy rule set so that you can continue to play with these miniatures. I'm still really excited for the new edition. I hope that you guys are as well. Now, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm sure there's a lot of thoughts to be had in this video. And this has been Conquest Creations. So until next time, have a good one.